I have never done something like that in my business practices. I've always innovated, whether it was this business or a couple others I've owned. Don't copy anybody, don't imitate anybody. If I can't make a better mousetrap with my own brain or enlist those that have a bigger brain than I do to make a better mousetrap, then I won't make it. Good morning, folks. Tim Sundles here with Buffalo Bore. My beautiful wife, Kim, is filming, and I've got to put a shout out to the no-name guy. And some of you guys are just great. While we don't want you sending us stuff, I mean, the humorous stuff is great. Somebody sent Kim and I 2 of these pointers because I've been using sticks and fireplace pokers. Originally, I was using a giant screwdriver, but SensorTube's AI would pick that up and say we were doing modifications to guns because there was a screwdriver in the picture. So they would delete our videos. So anyway, I now have a professional grade pointer sent to me by someone. They didn't put a return address on it or anything. Kim and I just want to say thanks. That's an awfully nice touch. Now, we had a video about the 44 mag that SensorTube deleted, and we're never quite sure why, because they use AI, and I don't think their AI is very okay? I think, and of course, they're programmed to be anti-gun anyway, so I wanted to redo this video and make it YouTube compliant, whatever that is, because they don't bother to tell you. They just say you violated community standards that the community never chose. That's a politically correct way of saying you violated whatever rules we arbitrarily pulled out of thin air. So let's do a new video on the 44 mag, and I didn't bring a carbine up here. We've got a video on 44 mag carbines that SensorTube hasn't deleted. And so let's talk about revolvers. You know the history of the 44 mag, right? It came out 1955-ish. And I believe it was Smith Wesson that was planning to bring it out in their what has become a Model 29. And Ruger got word of it and went and snooped through the dumpsters at Smith & Wesson, if you can believe this. I mean, to me, this is just disgusting. And Ruger beat him to the punch by a half a year or whatever with the 44 mag cartridge. The good news is, I will say Ruger...
Wait. We got a lot of people out there that think that that's okay. You know, that's part of the American dream. Just steal people's ideas.
Just steal other people's stuff.
Get over it, whiner.
Yeah, I have never done something like that in my business practices. I've always innovated, whether it was this business or a couple others I've owned. Don't copy anybody, don't imitate anybody. If I can't make a better mousetrap with my own brain or enlist those that have a bigger brain than I do to make a better mousetrap, then I won't make it. I don't copy other people's hard work. You know, Smith & Wesson didn't do all that development work on the 44 mag for free. It cost money. The one thing I will say about Ruger is they brought it out in their own gun, a single action revolver. They at least didn't copy Smith & Wesson there. Now, here's what Ruger originally brought the 44 Magnum out in. It's their flat top large frame. They made 2 frame sizes with these flat tops, and one for the 357 size cartridge, one for the 44 mag. The original ammo was greatly overpressured. It was hard, and here's another original Ruger flat top. Really cool guns. I'm not into 7.5 inch barreled guns. I bought it to make something out of, don't know if I ever will. But the flat tops are rare and they're cool. Here's don't hold me to this.
Babe, you don't need to buy any more guns. You just steal ideas from everybody else and let them do all the testing, and then you're all set. I think that's
guess
a new way, because that's what people think is cool, and go buy it for cheap, and that's okay.
I guess I don't need the $35,000 in
doing?
guns sitting here. I could have saved all that money and just copied Underwood.
Yeah, moral and ethics. People don't care about that. You wonder why our society's going to hell.
When Smith and Wesson brought out the 44 mag, this is essentially what they brought it out in. They weren't Model 29s then, they are now, but it's a Model 29. Here's the old 6.5 inch nickel, which is what the Dirty Harry movies starred, only he used a blued one, but it's the old 6.5 inch nickel Model 29. These early Smith & Wessons, the early 44 mag ammo as made by Remington, because Remington was the maker, beat the living tar out of these guns. And it was hard on these guns too, but these guns are stronger than the early pre-Model 29s. And so Sammy had to go back and reconfigure everything on the velocity and pressure scale. And, we ended up with watered down 44 mag ammo, but at least it wasn't beating up the guns. Now, since that time, Smith & Wesson in 1989 came out with what they called an endurance package. We'll get into that later, which really toughened these guns up. This is pre-endurance package. So let's talk about some of our great, fabulous options we have in 44 mag revolvers. Modern Super Blackhawks. This gun was a gift. It's got mammoth ivory stocks, really pretty engraving. Jeff Hoover gave me this gun. This is your typical modern Blackhawk, no longer a flat top, Super Blackhawk. And Jeff gave me this specifically so that when I was Cape buffalo hunting and I had a dead bull down, rather than use up another 600 nitro shell to make sure the buffalo was dead, I could just walk up and put one of these in its brain with penetrating ammo. So this is the modern Ruger version of their Super Blackhawk. Very useful gun, exceedingly useful. And a lot tougher than the old flat top Blackhawk, which was a strong gun anyway. Now, here's the current Ruger double action answer to what you need in a 44 mag. and it's just a 5.5 inch standard Red Hawk. I hate the Super Red Hawks. They're just bigger, bulkier, and uglier. As you can see, this gun gets shot a lot in between cleanings. It's due for a cleaning. This gun and this gun, which is another Super Blackhawk Ruger, are probably account for most of my high pressure testing with ammo. I use these things because they're pretty darn indestructible. Now let's get with some of the really innovative stuff that's out there. This is a Smith & Wesson. I think they called it a 329. It's part Scandium, aluminum, titanium, frame and cylinder. Super duper lightweight. I think it weighs 23 ounces, something like that. The downside is kicks like a mother bear. The felt recoil with a 44 mag this light is rough. You do not want to shoot the really full powered 44 mags in this, because this titanium cylinder gets its strength by being a little bit ductile. And when you fire, it expands, microscopically, and that's where it gets some of its strength. When that happens, the brass that's been fired also expands to fit the cylinder. Then the cylinder contracts, we're talking microscopic amounts, and you get real sticky extraction of the fired brass. So I developed a load, and it's this one right here. This is such a nice pointer. That load right there, reduced recoil, uses a non-expanding bullet just for penetrating a bear's skull, coming and going. And you can kill the biggest bears on the planet. You put one of those in his brain, it'll go right through. That's the heaviest load you can shoot in these scandium, titanium, aluminum things without getting sticky extraction of the fired casing. And otherwise, if you're carrying it for self-defense against humans, we've got these anti-personnel loads. They're much more sedate loading. And they've got expanding bullets, as you can see. If you look up at the top, Kim, you'll see hollow points in them. They're designed for self-defense against humans. They're very effective. This was a revolutionary gun. When Smith & Wesson brought this out, I had to have one. I've had this one it's been close to 20 years now. Very, very useful. It came with a Hillary hole. Somehow the Hillary hole got filled up. It doesn't have a Hillary hole anymore because I believe in safe guns, not unsafe safeties that activate on their own under recoil. Again, just a 4-inch Model 29. This is a pretty old one with a pinned barrel, recessed cylinder. Long before there was stainless steel, I had it hard chrome. Don't ask me why I did it. I was like 20 years old. I just thought hard chrome would be cool. And when you see ammo sitting out here, it's because the gun was loaded and I unloaded it to do the video. This load here in this gun, this is a pre-endurance package gun. I don't feel like beating it to death with super hot loads. So this load is that load, and that load will not beat up a pre-endurance package Smith & Wesson. Yet, due to the design of the bullet being non-expanding, it's one hell of a good bear stopper, especially if you can hit them in the brain. Probably the best balance of all the 44s I own as far as weight and strength are these two mountain guns. Now, these are a -3 and a -4. Let me explain the little bit I know about the different versions. The -3 and -4 Smith & Wesson 44 mags, and by the way, this is a -3 also, were after every element of the endurance package was actually installed on the guns, and before they started using any cast or MIM parts. And so everything on those guns is machined, and they're probably the best guns. According to Smith & Wesson historians like Brian Pierce, those are probably the best guns, the -3s and -4s, that Smith & Wesson ever made. They're very strong, very durable guns. That's a 40-ounce gun, okay? Here's a Colt Anaconda, which I'm going to get into in a minute, 49 ounces. They both have 4-inch barrels. It's up to you and how you're going to carry a gun, if you're carrying it for hiking or, it just depends on you. But I would never put this in a hip holster and try to hike with it. It would be pulling my pants down all day long. This is about as heavy a gun as I want in a hip holster, and you got 9 ounces difference here. If I'm going to carry a gun like this, which I can't carry because it doesn't work because Colt made a piece of crap. If I'm going to carry a gun like this, it'll be in a shoulder holster, and then you won't notice the weight. So let's go back to the Colt Anaconda, since I already introduced you to it and you know my feelings on it. $1,400 or $1,500, I bought it at a gun shop. The trigger return spring doesn't always work. The sights won't adjust laterally, and when I do adjust the rear sight horizontally all the way down, the front sight is so low that at 15 yards it shoots 8-10 inches high. So you can imagine what it would do at 30 yards. It'd be 20 inches high. You know, shame on Colt, shame, 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 for selling the public a gun like this where they didn't put the quality control in to know what height of sight and put a good rear sight on it that works. When I buy a gun to use. I don't buy a gun to inherit a project just so I can get them to work. Sorry, I don't do that.
And for all you guys saying that whining, we are here as a public service to all of you to give you information, education, experience from Tim, what he knows. He's not making money off of this. He's not making money doing any of this. He's here to advise and educate. If you want to come back and say that he's whining, you've missed the whole point of what we're doing.
Well,
take the information and make your own choices. We don't care what you do. We don't care what you buy. But we're trying to educate you from experience so that you're safe and you know what's going on. Take it or leave it. But that's what we're doing.
Yeah, and it's actually a disservice to your customer base to turn out stuff that doesn't work. You know, the design is fundamentally good, but the execution is really poor. They need sights that work and, you know, little details like trigger return springs. Folks, I don't want to send this back to Colt. I've done that before. Maybe half the time I get a gun back, they haven't done anything to, yet I was without the gun for 6 months, yet I spent time packaging it back up, yet I spent money shipping it to them. So this is just disrespectful of Colt. Now, probably maybe the classiest gun here is a Ruger Super Blackhawk converted by Hamilton Bowen to a Nimrod. This is a 6-shot gun. If they build these in 45 Colt, they generally build them 5-shot because the 44 Magnum case being a little smaller allows for a little more steel on the chamber walls, and he can go 6 rounds and you can shoot the hottest ammo in this that you can imagine. And what I've been shooting in it is this 340 grain load right here. It's a plus P plus load. It's evil hot, designed to penetrate lengthwise through the biggest bears on the planet. I've also been shooting some of this load, which is a monometal non-expanding bullet that penetrates very, very deep. Monometal is much lighter than lead-based bullets for its length. So we could only go 265 grains and still have powder capacity to run it as hot as we wanted. And I'll tell you, in penetration tests, it's only about 6 inches behind this bullet in penetration, but you're talking over 50 inches of penetration in 10% ballistic gelatin. So 6 inches is kind of meaningless. And even this low recoil load right here penetrates, in the high 40-inch range. I mean, when you go non-expanding with a flat nose, things tend to penetrate really deep. Another Smith Wesson. I don't have any complaints about this one. Just a 6-shot end frame, 2.5 inch or 2 3/4 inch barreled gun. Gosh, that could even be 3. I think it's 2 3/4. Good gun. You know, it's heavy for a short barreled gun. I got it just to play with, and I like it. It's not going anywhere. And I think this was some kind of a limited edition, but Smith Wesson is still making these. And I alluded to this one before. It's just a Model 29 pre-endurance package. It's nickel because I like bling, and I saw it sitting used in a gun shop, and it was blingy, and I just thought, what the heck, they don't make these anymore. And so I bought it. I've shot it a little bit, and that's all I've done with it. This is an Abalene revolver. So this was sold to me by an old farrier of mine that just couldn't get handguns to shoot for him, and he course, he was blaming the gun because he couldn't hit squat with it. So I said, well, bring it by. What do you want for it? And he goes, give me $100 for it. Folks, this is a nice revolver. I gave him the $100 for it, told him it was worth a lot more. He said, nah, the gun's a piece of crap. I can't hit anything. This thing shoots so good, it's pathetic. Okay. And I find that with, heavy kicking guns, especially handguns, and people, they're so busy yanking the trigger that they're shooting 2 feet low at 10 yards. And, the flinching is just really hard for people. But this Abalene, I think they called them U.S. Arms, made them. Really a nice gun. I really don't like a barrel that long, but I got to have a few long barrel ones just for testing and stuff. Good gun, especially for $100. Okay, it's Smith & Wesson's turn to get beat up on. This is their nice little 2 3/4 or 3-inch L frame gun, 44 mag. Being on the L frame, makes it very portable, very handy, very usable. It has a nice balance. I like everything about it, except it came with a rear sight that wouldn't adjust laterally. It just won't. And if I adjust it all the way down vertically, that front sight is still too low. 15 yards, it's shooting 10 inches high. Completely unacceptable from Smith & Wesson. I bought the gun new, paid like $950, maybe $1,000 for it. Ordered it through a gun shop here locally in town. I had visions of carrying this in the winter in a hip holster, and carrying it socially, with like these kinds of loads in it, for social work. And I just, the gun's unusable. At 30 yards, if I aimed at somebody's crotch, I'd hit them in the sternum. Great. Never mind if it's a little left or right, the sights won't adjust laterally. Shame on Smith & Wesson. That's just disrespectful to the buyer who's looking to buy a product to use, not a project to work on and make right. Here's one of the Smith & Wesson classics, and this is also a -4. It's a hyper-accurate gun with the full endurance package, all machined parts, really, really a nice gun. And you'll see the ammo sitting here. It's in the shade of my coffee cup. This ammo is what was in it. And in years gone by, I had a log cabin down on the Salmon River with a big enough yard to put horses in and stuff, and I could take pack trips out of there. And I kept this gun by the front door inside the cabin because, down by the Salmon River in the summer, there's rattlesnakes. So you'll notice the first 2 shots are bird shot, and then the rest are an expanding 300 grain bullet. Same bullet is right here. Now, the interesting issue with this load, very useful load, is that the bullet is stiff. That's a spear bullet. It's pretty stiff, and generally speaking, at handgun velocities, it doesn't expand. It acts like a solid. So I really like it if that's why it was loaded in this gun. If I had to put down an injured horse or a bull or something like that, I could, yet the first 2 shots, were bird shot, because I can't tell you how many times in the dark I would get to my cabin after a long drive, walk up on the deck, and I'd hear the buzzing of a rattlesnake, and it's dark, and so then you got to look real carefully, step around, make sure you don't step on a rattlesnake, go in, flip the porch lights on, and come out with your 44 with bird shot. It works really well. Just an average everyday test gun, Super Blackhawk, 5.5 inch. I really like this gun. If you knew how much I've abused this gun with overpressure loads in testing, you'd just be shocked. And the gun locks up tight. Everything about it is good. These Super Blackhawks are tough, tough guns. Maybe not as tough as the standard Red Hawk, but they're so tough it doesn't matter. Both of them are. I mean, you can just abuse them to death. And of course, here we have an original flat top Blackhawk, and this is like a 1957 gun. The only thing that's been done to this gun is I had the frame case colored. I got this gun, they came with 6.5-inch barrels, and I bought it and I thought, well, I'm gonna cut that barrel back to 4 3/4 and have a nice compact gun. I made the mistake of shooting it before I had the barrel cut. This gun is so accurate that I just thought, nah, I'm not messing with success. I'll keep it someday and go hunt javelinas with it or something. I'll use it as a hunting gun. And of course, another flat top, 7.5-inch, and this is like a 1956 gun, I believe. I don't like 7.5-inch revolvers, but I haven't decided what project I want to do with this gun yet, so it's still 7.5-inch. And by the way, it shoots really, really good. So, you know, you just hate messing with something like that, but I bought it as a project gun. That's what it's going to be. I just got to get around to doing the project. You know, you could turn that into a lot of cool things. Anyway, folks, when it comes to 44 mags, this is my collection that I've used to develop the ammo that you're firing. I haven't copied anybody else's ammo. I can make better ammo than anybody with my own brain power, knowledge, and experience. I don't need to copy somebody else's. The rest of the world doesn't think that way. These are the guns I've used. I have an immense amount of experience with these guns and with the 44 mag in general. And if you want to see more about the carbines, we have a YouTube video regarding 44 Magnum carbines. 44 mag is sort of entry-level outdoors cartridge for a lot of people. I mean, if you're a real outdoorsman and you want to hunt, you know, deer and elk or moose, if your ammo's designed right, you can hunt from small 150-pound whitetail to large 1,700-pound bull moose. You just gotta pick the right ammo to do the job. I get asked by people all the time, well, what's the best ammo for this gun or for that gun? Well, depends on what you want to accomplish with the ammo. Yeah, the gun is a major factor in determining what ammo is best or what ammo works in your gun, but for what purpose? Personal defense against humans is far different than personal defense against 1,200-pound bears. So always, ammo should be designed specifically for a purpose in hand. You know, if you want the cheap banger ammo that goes bang and you can throw a hunk of lead out there, you know, there's plenty of that you can buy. You know, there's all kinds of like Blazer ammo and Winchester white box ammo and stuff like that. It goes bang and it shoots, but its purpose is to kind of go bang. I mean, I think out what I want ammunition to do. I pick the right bullet at the right velocities to perform a certain task, a specific task. So that's the part that matters to me, in addition to working well in the gun. Folks, very much appreciate your attention and your viewership, and hopefully we've given some information and some good ideas here, and God bless. Kim and I will see you on the next video.